Commissions. One of the first known reparationists was Callie House, who toured the nation advocating for reparations in the 1890s. But never in this nation's history has the movement to heal the harms of enslavement, institutionalized racism, and the system of white supremacy seemed so strong. The topic remains untouchable for most elected officials, and the call for reparations has not yet garnered widespread public support. Polling shows that most Californians agree that black fellow citizens are still suffering from the damage done by slavery and Jim Crow, but they still do not support cash reparations. The California Legislative Black Caucus has introduced a package of proposals for bills that do not include 1 penny of cash compensation, restitution, or repair. Governor Newsom and other lawmakers have distanced themselves from the concept of cash payments. While Newsom is right, cash alone will not repair our collective harm, the state's goofy legislative package ignoring monetary payments is disingenuous. California lawmakers need to step up and put a reparations bill for cash payments on the table. The issue of how it is funded, the timeline, or whether it impacts our current budget challenges can be addressed. But we must strike while the iron is hot, or the window of opportunity will pass us by. If you agree that it's time for our lawmakers to add a bill enacting cash payments to their lineup, call them at 916-319-3868 and say, if it doesn't include cash, it ain't reparations. That's 916-319-3868. Tell him Callie House sent you. From Bruce's Beach to the California Task Force, the Golden State is a trailblazer when it comes to reparations. The world is watching. We must rise to the historical moment and set a precedent for cash payments along with legislative remedies and policies addressing the systemic badges of slavery and Jim Crow. We must insist on measures significant enough to help close the racial wealth gap. California must stand for cash, and the time for reparations is now. For KBLA Talk 1580, I'm Dominique DePrima. We welcome your comments. KBLA Talk 1580. Well, they're running it today for sure. We are running it today. So excited to have in studio the director of the Department of Justice, Care, and Opportunities for the County of Los Angeles, a longtime advocate for the underserved, justice system innovator, and a retired LA County Superior Court judge, the Honorable Judge Songhai Armstead. Good morning.
Good morning, Dominique. What a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah,
this
welcome
morning.
back. Great to have you in.
Thank you.
So, wow, you got so much going on. Congratulations. I really want to go basic. There's a million things you're doing. We would need hours. But I congratulate you because you're standing up a new department in Los Angeles, which really reflects what the voters have been asking for, right? Which is this care first approach. So, and I think a lot of people don't know it exists or even what it is. So let's go there.
Okay. So we launched the Justice, Care, and Opportunities Department about 14 and a half months ago.
Wow.
And it's super, super exciting what we've been doing. We really have 4 major buckets of work that we do. So the first bucket is really around prevention, diversion, and reentry, and all of the services that a person may need that's not struggling with serious mental health challenges. If a person needs full-time care, that would be in the health department. That would not be in our department, but it's everybody else, right? So prevention, diversion, reentry, and that can be housing, it can be care management, it can be transportation to services, job training, education, just court reminders. I mean, there's just so many things there, family reunification. I mean, so many things are in that space. The second bucket we have is that if everyone who needed services went out and said, give me services now, there are not enough providers, there are not enough people to connect, not enough agencies to connect people with. So our second bucket is around developing organizations that can deliver the service, right? So we have an incubation academy. It's a 3-month program. It's 100% free. And we teach you soup to nuts. How do you run a nonprofit? So a lot of people have the passion for the work, but they don't know, how do you get the grants? How do you do the insurance? How do you have the board governance? How do you do all the background stuff? And so we do that. And actually, a little tagline on that, we actually have a pitch contest for our last 2 cohorts that's happening today at Magic Johnson Park. So that's going to be pretty exciting. And the top winner, I believe, gets $5,000. The second gets third, and I think the first gets $2,000 as sort of a pitch contest.
So you can watch it, but I assume it's too late to get in.
It's too late to get in, but it's not too late to join our incubation academy for the next cohort.
And that you said a lot of nonprofits have, people want to start nonprofits, but they don't know how. But this is also for existing nonprofits because it seems like a lot of our small organizations don't get the grants. They don't get the support because they don't know how.
Right. And so we target folks that have actually started the work. Initially, that's where we're starting. And so if you started the work, your overhead is less than $1.5 million. We kind of target you. You're in a high need area. You kind of get priority. You kind of get to jump towards the top of the line. We had 89 organizations go through our first 4 cohorts. Our current cohort has 26 organizations in it right now. What's exciting about our first 4 cohorts, though, is that we were able to help them acquire $28 million in grants.
Wow. So 28 community-based organizations.
89.
89.
28 million.
28 million. That's a lot of money going into those. I mean, because from my experience, a lot of these type of organizations are bootstrapping. They're self-funding, or they're getting a little money here, a little money there, but not any kind of real grants. They seem like they mostly go to a few organizations that have the experience writing grants.
Right. That's true. And actually, that leads me to our third bucket, which is our CFCI care grants. So our CFCI care grants is something really that when you talked about the community made happen. That's the result of Measure J. And a bunch of money went into that pocket. And through that, we've given out, the first cohort, the first group got $55 million to 118 organizations. And they get the money for 3 years. So it's not a 1-year grant. They get the money for 3 years. The second group was $123 million, went to 122 organizations. And right now we're reading, not us, but our third-party administrator and the folks that we're paying to do reviews. They're reading over something like 1,200, 1,400 applications for $175 million. So that will probably result in about 150 organizations also getting grants.
Yeah, I'm glad you're breaking that down, Judge Armstead, because I feel like when we pass these measures, notably like HHH or Measure J, many times we, the public, think, what happened to the money? Nothing happened. I voted for this and it didn't do anything. So give me an example of some of the kinds of organizations that are getting these dollars.
Yeah. What I love about the organizations that are getting the dollars, I've been able to go out and visit a few. I haven't been to all of them. It's a lot of them. But I'll just give you sort of 3 examples, right? So there's an organization that's kind of out east in the county. So remember, we cover the entire county, all 88.
And LA County is big.
88 cities plus all the unincorporated areas, right? And so we're trying to cover everything. So we have an organization that's out east that actually has created a center for the LGBTQ plus youth community where folks actually have a place to go. They have after school help. They have, anti-bullying practices. They have lots of classes. They have, how to safely engage. And so that is the first one that the county's had that we've been able to, and they were able to get the lease because we gave them a grant for 3 years. You wouldn't be able to do that with a 1-year lease because there's no guaranteed funding that you'd be able to support it. We have another organization in Antelope Valley that is for young teen mothers where they were able to buy an additional house and to bring in more girls and to provide
to give them housing.
To give them housing. We have another organization, and this one was fun. I went recently to visit it, where they teach young people how to restore old cars, and they teach them everything from the welding to painting. They have like 5 or 6 3D printers there, and out of their class, I think of about 58 or so in the cohort, I think all but 3 now have jobs to like Boeing and, all of these like sort of space and aerospace companies, because they're learning these skills, machinery and the welding and the painting and all these other things that's translating. And so they're translating into jobs. And these are kids who are formerly incarcerated, former foster youth, and other kids who were in vulnerable populations.
We'll be talking with Mayor Karen Bass. It's the bottom of the hour, Mornings with the Mayor. And one of the things I've heard her say specifically in relation to those supportive services around getting unhoused people off the streets is exactly what you're saying. The capacity of these organizations that provide the supportive services, the number of people that need help is bigger than the number of organizations.
100%. And I think one of the challenges that we've had, as a state, as a county, as a city, is that we have targeted the most vulnerable, right? And so but those are the ones that take the most time, they take the most money, they take the most resources, and they take the most ability and skill. Meanwhile, the other ones who are not as vulnerable continue to go down a trajectory that makes them also most vulnerable. So then that most vulnerable population is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's more complicated. And so one of the things that we're trying to figure out how to do, I think all of us, is like, how do we catch people at the earliest possible moment? How do we catch them before they hit that spot where it's so hard and it's so complicated and it costs so much money and you need so much skill? Like, our small community-based organizations can't help those populations because they're not equipped to, right? They don't have enough resources. They don't have all the degrees. They don't have all the medication. They don't have all the licenses. And so it makes it a little bit more complicated. One of the things, coming from the bench, I always felt it was almost equivalent to a hospital, like an emergency room, right? It's really where the first sign of crisis shows up, whether you're in a case with DCFS and you're in children's court, whether you're going through family court, through whether you're getting a protective order, whether you're about to be evicted, whether it's your first criminal case. Like, to me, that was always a place that I felt like we should have been catching people. Like, I would watch people come in and maybe the one person is in front of me, but I'm looking at the whole family. The whole family's in crisis. Like, so now they're going to find themselves in a lot of different systems. Like, what can we do at that moment? When we know a person is being evicted, why don't we have a catch base in there to rehouse folks? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, and I've heard those complaints from callers, right? That are houseless, or they're right on the edge of being unhoused. And they say, well, when you go to those agencies, and I know homelessness is not what your agency does, but it's an example of what you're talking about, where they say, well, if I'm not a drug addict or I don't have all these things, then I can't get help. And is that what you mean by the most vulnerable? We're dealing with the most vulnerable?
And I think, that's probably a combination of a federal shift that needs to happen and maybe a state shift, because funding is always targeting a particular population. So one of the challenges that I've seen is that we have so many silos that have developed because this funding only helps this person with one toe and a half a kid. Like, it's like very specific. And so you have to check these boxes. And so maybe you don't need all those. Maybe you just need one service from here and one service from here. The thing we're trying to figure out how to dissect, and this is not just me, it's a lot of people thinking about this. How do we serve the person first and think about the funding second? It's very, very complicated, but it's like, how do we really move to a human-centered approach when helping people? Because everybody doesn't need everything, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Talking with Judge Songhai Armstead. She is over LA County's innovative Department of Justice Care and Opportunities that's, implemented by the LA County Board of Supervisors upon the wishes of the voters. How is that going? What are they doing? And what are they? We need to know this. Continuing the conversation, there's a new academy. There's a helpline. I want to let you know about all that when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
We must understand the politics of our community, and we must know what politics is supposed to produce.
This election year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the place for politics. Unapologetically progressive politics. And we've got two of the best and brightest to help you cut through all the noise. Weekdays at 1 p.m., it's a More Perfect Union with Dr. Nee Corte. And at 4 p.m., it's Areva Martin in Real Time. He's a university professor and distinguished member of the White House Correspondents Association. She's a best-selling author and Harvard-trained civil rights lawyer. And they are both here every day to help guide you through all the this year, because you know it's going to get deep. Get your politics on weekday afternoons at 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. with a More Perfect Union, hosted by Dr. Nee Corte and Areva Martin in Real Time, only on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your flag.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now, you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears, thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
The thing no one tells you about periods is that your flow changes every day, and so should your tampon size. Tampax has 5 absorbencies to match your changing flow. If it hurts to remove, go down a size. If it leaks, go up a size. Only Tampax has a leak guard braid to help give you up to 100% leak and odor-free protection. All-day comfort and protection for under $5 a month. Based on average U.S. consumer usage at manufacturer's suggested price. However, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer. Excludes 8
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717. Thanks
for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we're talking with the Honorable Judge Songhai Armstead. She's a retired LA County Superior Court judge. She's also the director of the Department of Justice, Care, and Opportunities. It is a Los Angeles County department that does a bunch of things that you don't know about. Maybe I don't know about, but we should. Shout out to the LA County Board of Supervisors for getting this thing going. And of course, you've been tasked, Judge Armstead, with putting it on its feet. But I'm sure that a lot of the things you saw and encountered when you were on the bench are informing this work.
100%. And that leads me to one of the things I would like to do a small pitch for, and that would be our call center. So we launched October 1st of last year in alignment with the new bail schedule that the courts released, a call center that operates 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. And how it ties back to my job is that my former job is that I saw people all the time that didn't make it to probation, to parole. They said they forgot their court date. They needed supports and they just didn't know where to go. Or I was in the back in my chambers trying to call in favors for folks that I saw needed help. Now we have a call center that you can call, and it's called the Care Connect, called the Justice Connect Call Center. And what's amazing about the call center is that if an individual calls, they can get transportation to court, probation, parole, transportation to drop off their kid before they go to court. They can get care management that links them to housing support and a number of support services. They can get linkage to jobs. They can get linkage to housing. They can get linkages to a number of resources and services. And what's amazing about that, all they call is 1-833-LAC-JCOD or 833-522-5263. We also have a website with a number of resources, and it's justiceconnect.org. Justice, Justice, Connect, CONNECT.org. And it's a wonderful resource that people can call. And all they have to do is had any contact with law enforcement. They don't have to be, they could be coming out of jail or prison. They could have just been pulled over and given a ticket, a citation. They could have been booked and released. They could be anywhere on that journey.
Okay, so somebody was on the show. Oh, Jim Cornegay was on the show. He's over Live Free California, or that's probably the wrong title. But anyway, he was saying that he doesn't like to be referred to as formerly incarcerated. He was there.
Justice involved.
Justice involved that's the correct modern term.
Yes.
But I don't think anyone knows what that means. Sorry.
They don't. And I think you might have even witnessed this. I spoke to a crowd at an event once, and I said, how many of you have been formerly incarcerated? And everyone, like one person raised their hand, and then one of the guys got on the microphone. He said, how many of you guys have been messed up by the po-po and been in the system? And like everybody raised their hand. And it was a very different experience. I was like, okay, we don't use this language.
Right. I was trying to figure out. So justice involved is the correct way to say it.
Today.
But then I have to sort of add a little subtitle so people know what I'm talking about.
Correct.
So if you've been justice involved or messed up by the po-po, this line is a number you can call. And when you talk about, I know people who have missed court dates because they didn't have a ride, didn't have money for an Uber, or didn't have childcare, so they can call this number and they will get this help, like automatically? Do you have to have some special qualifications?
You just call. They ask you like 9 questions, and depending on the questions, they may ask you further questions. The other thing they can do is link you up to substance abuse services in real time as well. And so with all of those, you just call. So we've had people call from custody. We've had people call who are just released from custody. We've had people who've been paroled who call from the parole office. We've had people call with their defense attorney. Like, hey, I need to come back to court on this day. And the problem is that sometimes, and I know myself included, when you're in crisis, you kind of shut down. You don't have your higher level thinking, and then things go from bad to worse, right?
Right.
And we're trying to help people as much as we can. For those who want help, we want to provide as much support and as much services, and not dictating what a person needs to do. But hey, if you want this support and services, we're here for you to help.
Right.
You.
So if I'm a person that needs help,
yes,
and I call, they're going to ask me 9 questions. It's not an interrogation. They're going to intake me 9 questions.
Yes.
And then I can ask for what I need. I need a ride to court, or I need someone to watch my kid while I go, to the summons or whatever. And it's going to be free.
It's 100% free. Our goal is really to connect a person. So we will pick you up and take you wherever. Like, we'll do that in real time. We'll give you court reminders in real time. Our goal, my secret goal, is really to connect you to a care manager who can help you with all the things that you may not have thought about, right? And so we can pick you up today, but what's your transportation plan long term? We can pick you up today and we can give you a court reminder, but what is your childcare concerns long time? How do we get you into stable housing? So my goal is to connect you to one of the organizations that we're paying to provide that support for you so that they can check in with you every week.
So you can get more help than just
help.
the ride. But the ride is a way to start.
Yes.
And you're not obligated to do all the other things.
You're not.
And of course, a lot of times people don't want to call because they think that, there's going to be some, you're going to go into a database and all this stuff. But of course, you miss court, you going into a database too.
Well, you go to cell, but yeah.
Yeah, or a cell, right. So say the number again.
So the number is, what's easy for me is 1-833-LAC-JCOD. But if you need the numbers, it's 833-522-5263.
522-5263.
And it's a free number. Call from anywhere.
I know LAC stands for LA County Justice Care and Opportunities Department. I don't really punch letters on my phone. I need the numbers. So luckily, I don't need this help. But if I did, I would definitely call 833-522-5263. And you said there's also a website, justiceconnect.org.
Yes, or .com or about all of them.
.anything.
Pretty much.
And for families, sometimes it's not you that's justice involved. It's your boyfriend or your kid.
We get probably, I would say, a third of our calls is coming from a grandmother or a sister or a brother or a loved one who said, hey, they're not going to call you, but what can they get? And then the next call we get is actually from the person who needed the contact.
And one of the things I love is that you have justice involved individuals answering the phone, right?
We do.
So it's not some lady with the problem that's going, what's wrong with you? Why are you so bad? You're going to get someone that understands, right?
100%. And, I would say they're folks with various lived experiences. Everyone's not justice involved, but they're folks from our community who understand the community, who live in the community. And
which, of course, means you're giving them jobs, which is also another good thing. Okay, we only have a couple minutes here, but I want to make sure you talk about the Academy.
Yes. So we launched we call it the LA County Training center, right? And it's what we call as our fire camp. So one of my goals, what you may or may not know, is that many times our folks that are incarcerated get to help clear brush, help fight fires, work with CAL FIRE to, do fire prevention and other services. And then they come at home and then there's no job and there's nothing at the end of that. So we have the very first ever for LA County Training Center. We have our first 21 cadets in the program. It's a 1-year program where we provide case management, supports, fire training. They get all the certificates they need to go work for CAL FIRE or one of the state agencies, or to work for forestry or hazmat for LA County. Then they receive a stipend. We provide, 3 square meals, room and board, everything. And what's really fun and exciting about this is that we took a former probation camp and we've turned it into a healing space and a place where people can live and be restored. And it's in Calabasas. We did the ribbon cutting last week, which was super exciting.
Yeah, congratulations. So that's taking people who have this experience from inside prison and making a bridge so they can use that experience in the real world and have careers.
Yes, but we haven't limited. So if you are formerly incarcerated or justice impacted, if you were a former foster youth, transitional age youth, if you are a returning veteran or just a person from the community who needs help, we really don't turn around anyone. Our target is the first 3 populations, and we're targeting really the 18 to 27, 28 years old. But we have folks older, and we have folks that have other experiences as well. And it's been really exciting to go out and meet the guys.
Wow. Is that all that is on the JCOD? What's your website? JCOD.org?
JCOD.LACounty, JCOD.LACounty.gov.
It's always long when it's the county. JCOD.LACounty.gov.
Yes.
So many more resources there that we haven't touched on today. Judge Songhai Armstead, thank you so much for sharing with us. 10 seconds. What do you want to say?
I just want to say thank you for the time, Dominique. I want to say thank you to my board of supervisors for really entrusting us with this work, and to the community who continually supports us and goes out there and does the hard, heavy lifting. Remember to follow us at LACJCOD, at LACJCOD we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, and we're on YouTube. And there are a lot of resources and information there. And use our call center and tell a friend. Thank you.
Judge Armstead, thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Mornings with the Mayor next on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
Thank you for sharing a part of your Thursday with us here on the Black Information Network. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest. New black box data recorder evidence shows the pilot of that cargo ship that crashed into a major Baltimore bridge called for help. The pilot radioed for tugboat help and reported a power loss minutes before crashing into the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore Harbor. President Joe Biden will be joined by former Presidents Bill Clinton and Barack Obama for a fundraiser tonight at Radio City Music Hall in Manhattan. President Biden is out to raise millions of dollars for his re-election campaign. The centerpiece of tonight's event is what's being called an armchair conversation with President Biden and former President Clinton and Obama, moderated by late-night talk show host Stephen Colbert. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Need an accident attorney by your side? All you got to do is call the Accident Guys.
Injured in a car accident or at work? The Accident Guys have helped over 5,000 injured clients with an impressive winning record.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers won their fifth straight, a 12-point win last night at Memphis. Rui Hachimura dropped a career-high 7 3-pointers. He finished with 32 points. Kawhi Leonard made a clutch block just before the final buzzer to help the Clippers hold on for a 1-point win at Philadelphia. Paul George had 22. One of the roads to the NCAA Men's Basketball Final Four goes through L.A. The West Regional Semifinals are today at Crypto.com. Arizona and Clemson tip off at 4 p.m., followed by North Carolina and Alabama at 6:30. Baseball is back. It's opening day today for the Dodgers and Angels. The Angels are in Baltimore. The Dodgers are at home against St. Louis. Only 2 black managers among Major League Baseball's 30 teams. Both are right here in Southern California. Ron Washington is in his first year with the Angels. This is season number 9 for Dave Roberts with the Dodgers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Fight climate change. This Earth Day, April 22nd, go Metro and ride for free. You'll make a difference. Metro buses run on clean energy, making every day Earth Day. Together, we can clear the air and connect our communities. Start your journey at metro.net. In the heart of California, where innovation thrives, access to high-speed internet is important to every family and business. Cal Broadband is the state's leading expert in the development and deployment of broadband infrastructure. Each day, we work to help advance the right policies that will expand the opportunities of reliable, high-speed internet to every community in our Golden State. Cal Broadband is working hard to connect California. Visit calbroadband.org for more information. That's calbroadband.org.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Wait, no, I'm always hot.
Sleep Number does that. The Climate 360 smart bed actively cools or warms up to 13 degrees on either side for your ideal sleep temperature. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. JD Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now save $1,000 on our most popular Sleep Number smart bed. And Saturday. For JD Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Heard the catchphrase that's sweeping the nation?
Jackson, Hugh, yeah.
People are saying Jackson Hugh yeah to Jackson Hewitt because they love saving money on tax prep. Do you love saving money? Then switch to Jackson Hewitt today and pay less than last year. Thousands of people have already made the switch. Why haven't you? Stop waiting and start filing. You won't get a better deal or a better catchphrase. All together now.
Jackson Hugh, yeah!
Proof of prior year payment required when filing. New clients only at participating locations through April 7th. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive, KBLA Talk 1580.
And it is time for Mornings with the Mayor here on KBLA Talk 1580, where we get a chance to talk with the chief executive of the city of Los Angeles, the 43rd mayor, longtime community activist. I am talking about Mayor Karen Bass. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you, Dominique?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine. Thank you. Doing good.
You're everywhere at once is what I know. And I'm going to try to squeeze as much in as we can with the time that we have. So top of mind, I guess, for a lot of people is the search for police chief. You've appointed an interim in Dominic Choi, but they will not be the permanent chief. And we hear now there's a headhunting firm. What can you tell us about the next chief of police?
Sure. Well, what I can tell you is that the search should begin real soon. We've just established a contract with a firm that specializes in recruiting law enforcement executives and has had a particular history in focusing in California. You know, I think it's important that people weigh in, that Angelinos weigh in, that officers, business organizations, community organizations weigh in to what type of person they would like to see as chief, how they want to see the police department led. And so, Dominique, I would really love if you in your program could be helpful with that. So in other words, when listeners call in or if they could write in some type of documentation, and we're giving that documentation to the search firm because we want the search firm to take into consideration Angelino's views on how they want to see the Los Angeles Police Department lead, the leader. And so that information would be very helpful.
Oh, yeah, we'd love to do that. You know, KBLA started on this polling stuff and getting a lot of feedback from folks, you know. So people can weigh in. They can write to you. They can also write to us, and they can call us, and we'll turn that information over to you. Because I think there's a lot of variety. You've said it. What's good for one community might not be what another community wants.
Exactly. And you should know that as I've been meeting with officers, one thing that has really surprised me is some, not all, I'm not saying this is everybody, are open to the idea of somebody coming from outside. And that was something that I absolutely didn't expect to find. And, you know, Dominique, what I'm doing with the search for a police chief is what we're doing throughout the city. So, for example, we have great talent in all of our departments, and most of the time there's people in the department that will apply for the job. But the nation's second largest city, we need to look for the absolute best. And if the absolute best person is from the department, that's great. So we've used the national search in other departments as well. For example, the airport. We just did a national search for a leader of the airport.
Yeah, which is a whole other show for another day, because that's a huge project that intersects with just about everything. I know you were on the ground after these big storms. I think we have a medium-sized one coming this weekend. And I know Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Vista, areas of South LA were among impacted communities. Not the only ones. There's others. But where are we? I know some folks were disappointed that we didn't get FEMA designation. What can you say about our bounce back from the storm damage that we've seen so far?
Well, I can tell you that I'm worried about this weekend, you know, because even though the rains aren't expected to be terrible, the ground has been saturated from the prior rain. And so we could have further slippage in our hillsides, like in Baldwin Hills, for example. And, you know, I'm curious about the FEMA designation because I've been told a couple of different things. So I'm going to track that down today to find out if that's the case, because I had heard that, I hate to put it this way, but that we had enough damage so that we qualified for FEMA, and then I heard we haven't. So I need to clear that up.
So that may still be in flux. That might not be accurate information, and we're going to find out. But it is scary, especially when we see what's going on with insurance in the state, where these insurance companies are backing away from covering us. And most of the people I know who experienced storm damage, the insurance companies are not covering it.
Yes, that is a real problem in our state. And I pity our state insurance commissioner because he's, you know, charged with dealing with that. And if the companies walk away, it is very difficult to see what can happen. I mean, in those instances, sometimes the public sector can kick in. But given the economic times that we're facing right this minute, it's very difficult to imagine the state actually putting money forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I know we're hearing we might not get the reimbursements that we thought we were going to get from COVID, so I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a different situation. That's on the federal side, and we definitely have not given up on that. I'm going to be taking a group of mayors, probably about over 30 mayors from all over the country, to Washington at the end of April to lobby around funding for the homelessness situation. And we will absolutely be looking at that because that is what that FEMA money was from. You know, it was the hotel stays. And for the federal government to say now they are not going to, that they're going to renege, you know, absolutely hurts us. We need that money.
Yeah. And we had a ruling by a judge recently calling for this sweeping, investigation or analysis of the homeless services in LA. How is that going to impact? My concern was that since that lawsuit was brought by business owners and was not necessarily coming from the advocate side, that could cause some slowing down of the delivery of services and the help that folks need?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think that will happen. And, I am not going to go backwards. There's no way. I mean, we've come a long way, and you've heard me say from the very beginning, instead of spending 6 months designing the best program, we jumped in right away because it's an emergency. People are dying on the streets. We moved to house them immediately, and now we are beginning to look at what we've done, critique it, and improve it in year 2. But the audit and the lawsuit is from several years ago.
Right.
And so it's not clear to me what the audit is going to cover. It's certainly going to cover my time, but I believe it will go back in time as well, and looking at the overall situation as to how we deal with, pay for, and implement programs to house Angelenos.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for transparency. I mean, I've heard a lot of people complaining that we're not getting bang for the buck on these programs. But when I read every single receipt, I'm like, okay, is this going to be helpful, or is this just going to be, sort of slow walking the change that we need?
Well, there is always the potential for that, but I will tell you that I will fight that every step of the way. The other thing is that when people see how much we are spending, and you've heard me say from day one, it's crazy money. We spend thousands of dollars a month per person to be in the hotels. You've heard me say that we have to come up with a less expensive way of housing people. But the problem is that our city and county never invested in long-term interim housing, because even though we are fast-tracking building, it still takes months. And I disagree with the notion that a person should stay at a tent while building gets done. We need to get people off the street right away. The other thing that people don't often think about, you know how much money it costs to leave people on the street in terms of fire, police, trash, crime. I mean, there is a tremendous expense to society to just allow the problem to fester. That's what we did with mental health. We shut down the institutions. We allowed people to be ill on the street, and then we go, oh, my God, it costs so much money. But we spend all the money putting people in jail. So we have a choice. Do we get people housed? Do we put them in jail, or do we leave them on the streets? That's the choice that Angelenos have to make. And I believe that Angelenos want to see people off the street.
Speaking of that, Proposition 1 passed narrowly. I voted for it partly because, you urged us to vote for it, because I feel like if we're trying something new to get people off the streets, we should give it a full try before we declare it a failure. How are you feeling about the election? How are you feeling about Prop 1?
Well, I was surprised, like everybody else, considering that proposition at the beginning was polling at 72%. But nevertheless, it passed. So we can move forward, and hopefully we will be able to make some headway on the mental health issue, because we need to build facilities for people who will never be able to take care of themselves. And we all have to acknowledge it's a very small percentage, but there are people that are just too profoundly ill, and we can't leave them on the street. But the majority of people can receive treatment, become stabilized, and be incorporated back into mainstream society. And we need to build facilities, programs, and resources for every aspect of the population that struggles with mental illness.
Well, when I was up in Sacramento getting an award, I saw you there with the delegation. When we come forward, I want to find out. I know you guys were after money. I want to find out how that went and what the impact of it was. That's next. We're talking with Mayor Karen Bass on KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
My ride smells just right, just right, just right, just right. Y'all gotta try that Febreze car. right, just right, just right, just right. Yeah. La 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 la. With up to 40 days of consistency. All over breeze, car clips right on your vent. You know my car's my happy place. Keep that smile on my face. When it smells just right, just right, just right. Yeah. Breathe happy for breeze. La 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 la.
This Easter, March 31st at 11:07 a.m., ECM will be at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. We are inviting everyone to meet us there as we will be presenting the Black Resurrection Experience. What good is Jesus' resurrection if we are still living in cultural graves? ECM will present a stage play production that will address Black dignity, Black worth, Black unity, Black ownership, Black votes, police brutality, generational wealth, mental health, Black power through Jesus' power, and most of all, your purpose in life through the murder of Jesus Christ. And we will tell this entire story with singing, dancing, acting, rapping, with a little bit of preaching from yours truly, Pastor Shep. The Black Resurrection Experience. Easter morning at the Redondo Beach Performing Arts Center. It's totally free, so come get your freedom.
The conversation continues right now with Dominic DePrima on First Things First.
We are talking with the founder of the Community Coalition, former Congresswoman, the 43rd Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, Karen Bass. And before we jump into the other question, I want to make sure that I ask you about the jobs, because you've talked a lot about access to open jobs. We've been hearing now that the jobs that are unfilled will be cut in order to balance the budget or help balance the budget. Does this mean that there are no opportunities? What does it mean for folks who are still trying to heed your call to come work for the city?
Well, absolutely. It does not mean that all hiring will stop, but the vacancies, we've had thousands of vacancies, funded, by the way, that have been on the books for years. And some of those vacancies we are going to essentially take off the books so that we can balance the budget. And that does not mean that all hiring will stop. We have not begun to look at which vacancies we're going to eliminate yet, but we will over the next few weeks. And by the way, over the last year, we've hired about 3,000 people.
Wow,
so hiring will continue, but it will be much more targeted.
So if I'm interested, what should I do?
Actually, what you should do is definitely continue to apply to the city, but then just stay posted on as we go through this process where we will get. Now, one of the things that I have not been able to accomplish to the point where I want it to be, it still takes too long to get hired. So I feel good that we did job fairs all over the city last year. That's what resulted in the hiring of over 3,000 people, but it still takes too long. And it shouldn't. And so we have to continue to work on that.
So you go to lacity.gov/jobs. I'm on there right now.
Yes.
Or just go to lacity.gov and click on jobs. It's in the little pull-down menu on the right. Okay. So you were in Sacramento with a delegation of city council members and others. What was accomplished and what was the goal?
Well, absolutely. So I've taken delegations to Washington and to Sacramento. And when we go up to meet with state leaders, not just our legislators in the Assembly and the Senate, but members of the administration. And in the course of doing so, we met with the head of what would be California's version of FEMA, the Emergency Management Department. We met with her, and we found out that our region was going to get $300 million. I'm not exactly sure how that will break out for LA. Probably around $60 or $70 million will be coming to Los Angeles. And we were specifically looking at different areas of funding, but also legislative fixes so that we can continue to get the building done we need. For example, one piece of legislation that Senator Maria Elena Durazo is carrying will allow us to use public lands for recreational vehicles, and that everybody is concerned about the number of RVs on the street, which is just another way for people who are unhoused, really. Most of the RVs that you see on the street are rented, not owned by the occupants. And in a lot of cases, the RVs don't even work. And so we want to begin to take the RVs off the street, to get the people out of the RVs if they choose to leave and get them housed. But also, if they want to stay in the RV, we need a place for them to park that is not on our city streets. One of the biggest problems with RVs is the disposal of sewage.
Yes. Yes. And just that they become almost a version of a tent encampment when they're lined up along Jefferson or wherever they might be. So that legislation would allow us to use land owned by the state, by the city, or by the county to create lots for folks with bathrooms and such.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Bathrooms, services, and also the waste disposal.
Mayor Bass, there's been a lot of reporting about these old hotels, the single-room occupancies. We talked about this last time you were on, but it's still kind of confusing. LA Times says, well, city officials want to get rid of these hotels, and they, from my reading of the article, they're making it sound like it's a last resort, housing of last resort that will now disappear. How do you analyze that?
Well, first of all, we're not calling for the complete elimination, but some of the single-room occupancy hotels are in terrible disrepair, and they need to be repaired. Now, in some instances, they might not be able to be repaired. I don't think it's a model that I would pursue in this day and age, because basically we're talking about an extremely small room with no toilet facilities, and you walk down the hall to, group toilets. And then, of course, no cooking facilities, so you have to have, a dining area. I wouldn't necessarily go after rebuilding that type, but where these hotels can be restored, we want them restored, but some of them are beyond that, and they're actually dangerous.
So what will happen to those?
So we're looking for an owner now to take it over, because the city cannot manage to purchase. Number one, it's too expensive, but also to manage the hotels. So the city right now is looking for an organization, a company, an individual who wants to take over ownership, but would maintain them for low-income housing, not take over the motels and build luxury housing. That would be a disaster.
Mayor Bass, what are you feeling encouraged about? I follow the way that you're covered, because I know there's always a gap between the coverage and the reality of the work that you're doing. And I feel like the press actually has surprised me in being a little bit more fair with you than I believe LA press typically is with black electeds. Maybe it's your track record.
Right.
But I don't know that always lasts. So I think it's important for us as voters to be mindful of that. But what are you encouraged by as far as what you've been able to get done so far?
Well, I am certainly encouraged when we get people off the streets and into motels. And I'm also encouraged by improvements that we are going to be making to the system this year. You remember, because you've heard me say this every single time, that I have been very concerned that the services that are provided to people in the motels is not adequate, and they need to be far more robust and intense. And so I have hired a medical doctor, actually, to be my deputy mayor for homelessness, and she's going to come in and really come up with a more robust model of services. When we move people from the tents into the motels, community-based organizations take over. Those organizations do not have the resources to provide the services that are needed, and there is every reason to believe, as I do strongly, that that's one of the reasons that people leave interim housing. If they don't get the care that they need, they can wind up back on the street, or the housing fails. And I think for too long, housing first has meant getting people off the street, and I support that, but not necessarily addressing comprehensively why they were on the street in the first place. So that's why my motto has always been housing and services first. So I'm encouraged by what we have done, and I'm very encouraged and excited about improvements that I know we will make this year.
I want to thank you. I was there when you came to the Center for Black Power in Leimert Park, and you listened, 4 hours to people's input about the budget and heard the reporting on the people's budget. That was your second time doing it. It's the first time in the history of Los Angeles that any mayor has done that. I really want to thank you and commend you for doing it. You know, a lot of times electeds come in and they leave. And you sat there and you listened to every single last person. What did you take away from that experience? I mean, as we are in the thick of budget season right now.
And by the way, I really appreciate opportunities to do that. And so, you know, in this job, unlike my previous jobs, I don't really have the opportunity to organize my own town halls and go out like that. So when a community organization invites me, I'm happy to go. And so, you know, again, what I learned is how dire are conditions and services that are needed, and that we have to make sure that we continue to provide the services. The other thing that I saw from the meeting, and I want to really figure out how to be helpful with, is that a lot of things that are asked are not necessarily in the power of the city. And so to me, what that means is not to turn around and say, that's not our issue, go over there, but to say, how do we as elected officials and different levels of government collaborate to really maximize the services, you know, that we have. And so I definitely want to stay in touch with the groups and follow up, because some is budget related and some is not necessarily budget related.
Mayor Karen Bass, thank you for taking time out to talk with us. Mornings with the Mayor on KBLA Talk 1580. Thank you for all you're doing.
Absolutely. Always appreciate the time, Dominique.
Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got a full lineup on this fine Thursday for you. I'm going to one of my favorite quotes. It's Kwame Nkrumah. He says, "Forward ever, backward never." I'm Dominique DePrima. Don't forget to tap in on social media, KBLA 1580 on all platforms. I'm at DePrima Radio, DIPRIMA, and then radio. I promise you, if you DM me, you're going to hear back from me, even if I'm yelling, even if it's all caps. History is now, and we are making it together. Don't forget, tomorrow is Freedman Friday. Also, Little Easy E will be on deck. We got a lot going on around here. So until next time, one love.